Most amateurs who struggle with serve and attack think the problem is their loop, but it's actually their serve. Today we're going to talk about the serve and attack, specifically how to loop the ball when your opponent returns your serve with a push. First, let's have Xiaoquel demonstrate a few. Serve and attack. She's hesitant to attack because she's making too many errors, only one success for every 4 mistakes. At this rate, it's better not to attack. The shots that do land lack quality and can easily be blocked back by the opponent. Exactly. This can cost you several points in a row, which is why Xiaoquel can't use this tactic in a real match. Now let's watch her use a long serve to get into a rally. Now we understand why Xiaoquel preferred to serve long and get into rallies. One reason is that it forces opponent errors, and the second is that she can handle the return and find a rhythm. However, the problem with rallying is that it's tough against pimple rubbers due to their spin variations. When I rally against pimple rubbers, I consistently loop with heavy spin. But for someone like you, who struggles with the backhand rip and generating forehand friction, rallying against pimples is very difficult. And in amateur tournaments, you face a lot of pimple rubbers, about 80% of players use them. Guess what pros fear more, inverted rubbers or pimple rubbers? It's actually inverted. So, which type of pimples do we prefer to play against? Short pips, medium pips, or long pips? Pros prefer playing against long pips the most because the returns are slow and the spin reversal is predictable. The pimples we fear most, in my opinion, are medium pips. Their returns can sink, and they can even generate reverse spin on a push. In reality, what pros fear most is simply being outmatched by a stronger opponent, someone whose raw power, loops, placement, and defense are all superior. What do pimple rubbers fear most? They fear spin. That's why I don't understand players who call themselves power players and seek the fastest racket, only to make constant mistakes. Won't a faster racket just make your shots fly off the table even quicker, leading to more errors? Your equipment should compensate for your weaknesses. Since pimple players are common in amateur matches, the best strategy is to loop with heavy topspin. It's not just pimples, inverted rubbers also struggle against heavy topspin. When I load up the spin, my opponent is bound to hit the ball long. Therefore, spin is a skill that isn't limited by age. Wouldn't you say it's the most high-value technique in the game? You can land a spinny loop, and your opponent will struggle to return it. If everyone knows pimples fear spin, why do you insist on hitting with power instead of training your spin? Practicing power loops is incredibly difficult. For an amateur, it requires dedicated training and could take 8 or 10 years. So when choosing a racket and rubber, spin should be your top priority, absolutely not power. Those tensor sponges, like Platinum V, have plenty of power. But does it spin? If someone claims a tensor sponge is very spinny, they'd get even more spin from a high-density sponge. Since you can't break through a pimple player's defense, shouldn't you focus on adding more spin? Your power loops, including those serve and attack attempts, often result in errors, right? Why? It's because you don't understand the spin on your own serve, which is why your loop goes long one time and into the net the next. In this pushing drill, Shuai Shuai is simulating an amateur. If you serve with spin, he pushes back with spin. If you serve no spin, he pushes back with no spin. Right now, you're serving with spin without realizing it, causing your loop to go into the net. Then you think, I'll lift the next one higher, but you serve no spin, and lifting it just sends the ball long. You must have a clear plan for what serve you're using, how you'll loop the return, and where you'll place it. This is critical. Listen carefully to the next 3 points. First, the serve must be short, meaning it would bounce at least twice on the table if left alone. Second, the serve must be low. A high serve allows the opponent to execute a long, aggressive push. A return like that is impossible to loop, there's no time to brush the ball. If your serve is low, their long push will go into the net. Once that happens, they'll opt for a simple push, and that's your opportunity. So, first, short. Second, low. Third, you must know what spin you served. If I serve backspin, I'll use more brushing action on my loop. If I serve no spin, I'll use a loop with more forward drive and less brush. You need 2 different looping techniques for these different returns. Another key point is your positioning. Currently, after your topspin serve, you're staying close to the table and attacking the ball on the rise. If you serve backspin and they push, standing too close means you'll meet the ball too early to loop effectively. So, after a topspin serve, step forward, after a backspin serve, step back. For instance, if the ball comes to your forehand, you must give yourself space to get low and loop. The distance from their push to my contact point is now perfect. If you stand too close, you have no time to execute your stroke. That's why you end up just lifting the ball upwards. Your natural instinct when jammed is to lean back. You must create distance to make time for your full stroke. Most amateurs who struggle with serve and attack think the problem is their loop, but it's actually their serve. Many players find it difficult because they serve a long sidespin backspin and then stand too close. Even a professional couldn't loop that return in time. To loop after a long serve, you need to be positioned about a meter back from the table. A short serve gives you time to loop. A long serve results in a fast return, much quicker than a standard backspin serve from your opponent. You're essentially digging your own trap and jumping right in. We pros serve short to force a low-quality return and then attack, or we serve short to pull them out of position and then loop to the open court. You can only power loop when their return is weak. How can you attack a high-quality return? The reason amateurs lift 9 out of 10 loops is that they stand too close after serving. They jam themselves, fail to step back, and have no time for the stroke, so their only option is to lift upwards. You see this in every club. They can't use proper technique because it's a positioning problem. This is the reason. You serve a long, spinny sidespin backspin, they chop it back. And you still have to recover your position, unlike receiving serve where you're already set. Add to that our slower recovery, anticipation, and footwork, and lifting becomes the only way to get the ball on the table. So, in your serve and attack game, you must focus on serving short. The return from a short serve will be much softer and won't jam you, giving you a normal looping opportunity. Now, push to her anywhere on the table, make it more difficult. Don't panic. You're playing too rushed, completely flustered, and you don't know whether to move left or right. Your mindset must be to see the ball clearly before you commit to the shot, just as you'd get to know someone before deciding to be with them. You have enough time against topspin, but you instinctively fear backspin. In reality, it's very slow. Why did you miss that last forehand? I've told you before, let the ball drop to around knee height before starting your forward swing. That's how you correctly time the contact and engage your power. Right now, you panic the moment the ball comes over. Serve, recover, see the ball, stay steady. Beautiful. Everyone, see how much better that rhythm is? Let me show you. I can wait until the ball is completely over the net before I move. And I still have plenty of time to loop a backspin ball. Even if the ball gets to here, push one to my forehand. See? I still have enough time. The problem with amateurs against backspin is they're so afraid they won't lift it that they rush in, thinking the ball is about to drop. In reality, if you just wait, push another to my forehand, see? Let it drop even lower, I can still loop it up. It's the same for the backhand. Even if the ball is extremely low, I can still loop it. Anyone can hit hard, but a true master controls that power. Anyone can rush, but a true master controls the rhythm. I can loop the ball even when it's about to hit the floor. So, slowing down is the best way to deal with backspin. I'm not saying you should always hit the ball this late, just that you have more time than you think. You have time to block a topspin, so how could you not have time for a backspin? You must see the ball clearly before deciding whether to move to your forehand or backhand, where to shift your weight, how low to get, and what your racket height should be. Xiao Quail, on that last push from Shui Shui, did you feel jammed or were you reaching for the ball? Right, you were out of position. The ball was a bit short, wasn't it? The starting position I gave you won't be perfect for every ball. If you feel caught out of position, you can't just reach for it with your arm. You need to step in to get into position before you loop. The same applies to the backhand. For example, after my serve, maybe he wants to push long, but instead he gives a soft, short push. I can't anticipate everything. From my ready position, my right foot must step forward to adjust as I prepare to loop. If it's a normal long return, I loop from my standard position. If it's a little shorter, I step into loop. You need to understand why you're making mistakes. If you feel you couldn't generate power, it means you were reaching because you were pulled out of position. If you feel jammed and are just lifting the ball, that's a timing issue, and you need to move back. If the ball feels short, you need to move forward. If the returns are mixed long and short, position yourself a little further back. You can always move forward, but it's very difficult to move back in time. If you stand close and he pushes long and fast, you won't be able to retreat. But if you stand further back and he returns it short, you can always step in to cover it. If he likes to push long, I'll give myself more space. If he prefers soft, slow pushes, which many amateurs do, then I'll stand a bit closer. Always prioritize getting into the correct position first. If the returns are mixed, stand further back and be ready to step in for the short balls.